Anything to
Okay,
like break
I
the
can
ice?
just
I don't...
start. I can just start with the problem that I'm having. If that's okay, is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah, yeah, whatever you want
Okay.
to do.
So I'm a bishop in Hyperion,
Mm-hmm.
and I just got to 270, but I am very much psychologically early game still.
Mm-hmm.
So quite stunted in that way in terms of confidence and knowledge. I
Com-
think
confidence in your knowledge, or like confidence about?
confidence and knowledge.
Okay,
So
so like
lacking in both.
negotiating and.
Do I need to negotiate?
Well, if you're playing the game, some of it is like networking, right? You
That is true.
like how do you sell yourself to a party? How do you come across as like what you're doing? That there's confidence there, right?
Sure.
But yeah,
Yes.
depending on
So
which
I
content you
think
do, though, it might not be relevant.
right. Yes. Um, it doesn't seem like negotiation's very important when you're a bishop, apparently.
Sure, everybody
But
just wants you.
yeah. So I think I'm at the point in the game where I'm expected to spend a lot of money on gear upgrades
Uh
from
huh.
from my understanding,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know where to go from where I am. I have you can see in the outline, the last one is the unsupervised plan, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if I'm left to my own devices, then I'm probably going to set myself back by like months probably.
Uh,
So
Potentially, yeah. Kind of looking at how many hours a day and how many hours a week you play, right? That could be. I
right.
mean, looking at efficiency, that could be a matter of days, or could be weeks or months if you're going completely lopsided. I guess
Yeah.
how did you come up with this plan? Like, what kind of input did you use for this?
So usually whenever I see a bishop in the world, I would kind of study what they have
Mm-hmm.
to see, get an idea of what I should be having.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, I do notice about you did mention to others how, people as soon as they get their pitch accessory, they might like suddenly start upgrading it. But then you say, hey, you might not, that might not be a good idea. You might be it might be better to kind of stick with your current gear. So that's another thing. I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself with what I would spend money on. So that's kind of confirmation that I would like there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, is that
Do better seems to
summarize?
be very almost like self-deprecating.
Always could do better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we can
Uh,
always do better, but it's a little bit confrontational to put it like that. Damn. Okay.
but yes, does that make so that's what I think the problem is, but who knows what
Mm-hmm.
other problems I may have. So that's my summary of the problem. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you were like familiar with like smart planning. Does that
Nope.
does that mean anything? Okay, so SMART stands for let's see, specific, measurable, articulate, reasonable, and time oriented. So if a
Okay.
plan, like a good plan, has all of these things, do better is just like self-hate, almost like
It's
vocalized.
a
It could be supportive, but like it looks a little bit like you piece of
I was
shit.
supposed
Like
to
it's
be
kind of like
funny.
okay, okay. Um, but it is
I'll
I
change
don't
it.
see. Yeah, no, no, okay. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, there you go, smiley face. Because that's all we can really do, right? Our best. But so these are just also general things you've seen other bishops have.
So
Um,
obviously I do see other, especially at level 270, they have arcane gear, but I
mhm,
don't see myself going anywhere near arcane gear anytime soon.
mhm,
I don't even know what. I mean, I know how. Like, I don't know how people get it. I mean, obviously there's the box or the coins. I don't know which one
mhm.
people use. There's a lot of knowledge gap there.
Okay.
Um, I definitely shouldn't be level 270 probably. Like the person you coached a couple of days ago, You
Mm-hmm.
know, they were what, like 3 levels ahead of me, but I felt 3 years behind them.
Mm-hmm.
In I mean, I probably am literally, but
It,
yeah.
well, yeah, it
So
could be that they've already been playing the game in general for 3 years. It could be that that character is 3 years old. Like I have level 260s that I don't remember exactly what was your combat power here. It was like 19 mil.
it's
So yeah,
very low.
yeah, like I have
It's
some
very low.
boss mules that just got to 260 that have like 50 mil. But
I know. Yeah.
like that's compound funding and game knowledge of like 8.5 years basically onto that character, knowing
Yes.
which corners I can cut, plus income from characters that old, that just can seep into this character. Where for the main characters, it's just that money doesn't get me anywhere because either I don't have the pieces to upgrade, or the next upgrade is like 23 star or triple double prime stuff, which is in the hundreds of billions. So if I spend like one fraction of that on another character, that early stage, what people would still consider like the early game, I could just fast track that thing completely because I know exactly how to do it. So that's why if you're comparing yourself to people around your level, it could be someone who also just started around the same time as you, and it's kind of a useful comparison to kind of see like what is the very next step. Or it could be someone who's like 10 levels lower than you and just blows you out of the water with gear that you haven't even seen before. So that's why it's level has become very tricky because of hyperburn, right? Someone can make like
Right.
a completely new character, and with all these event buffs, it maybe in like 4 days or something they could be done, if they're like crazy about it. And some other people have played up to 210, and then they come back 6 months later, and then there's a burn and some events, and they got to 230, and then another, and then it could be divided over years and years, and they could have a bunch of legacy gear. I don't see anything like super crazy in your plan, except in general we don't Star Force Abzo past 17, and the main reason for that is that Arcane is pretty quickly available, to the extent that where you can transition into Arcane pretty quickly. And because of how strong the Arcane set is and how strong the pieces get, usually you don't need higher Star Force Absolab to be able to do the content that it would give you access to, and just upgrading other pieces instead that you will keep past Abzo and into Arcane, stuff like the CRA and the Superior Golex gear, that kind of stuff, going further on those pieces instead, kind of artificially boosting them past the balance and keeping the Absolab a little bit below the balance, will make it so that when you switch to Arcane, you're not switching out of as much value in those pieces, and you can fund that directly into the Arcane, going for way higher flames, because you will keep Arcane for way longer, and into its Star Force and potentially and its potential essentially. So
Sure.
that's the only thing here that but maybe clarifying in like how to make the switch to Arcane and how exactly people do that and what your options are there will also clarify why it's not why it's not really necessary. I would say 19 star Abzo and like that kind of stuff, maybe even 20, 21 star Abzo is viable. But now I'm talking about people who want to do like purely solo progression, for example, because now there's a way higher damage requirement on being able to kill the bosses that give you the Arcane. Or that process will be terribly slow because you'll only be able to do like normal, lucid and normal will, right? And then the amount of droplets you can get per week is severely lower, so it'll really slow down your transition into Arcane gear. Or if you're making like a very strong side boss mule, essentially, which will be characters that are way stronger than your main character, but they'll make them as side characters because they want to just maybe just do up to like duo C10A or something, right? But that's in terms of where in the game progress you are, that's just way beyond where you're looking. But for those situations, you could do high star Abzo, just because you can have the resources in your account pre-saved basically, and going into high star Abzo will then again be faster, cheaper, and stronger than trying to wait for Arcane or buying the Arcanes, because Arcane buying is very expensive, as you pointed out there with point number 5. If you really just buy the staff and you're trying to buy it as quickly as possible, it can be very, very expensive because of all the droplet costs, right?
Yeah. So that is where the uncertainty is with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the expectation is with, because there was a person with 9k Legion that I asked or how often, because I was looking into my expiring free PD weapon with the arcane staff that's gonna be expiring next month, and I asked them how often do you see a weapon box, arcane weapon box, and they said, once every 3 months. So I thought, okay, I'm probably gonna be buying the stuff then, maybe.
Yeah, we
I
went
don't know what the
from
expected time is.
yeah. So way in the beginning, you had to just the actual droplets that you can get now in the event shop and you can buy for Mezzo. Those used to only drop from monsters, so it just took forever to get anything. And then there was a very 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 small chance, way less than with the boxes now, that you could get a drop straight up from the bosses. And that is just something that we just never really aimed for. If you got it, then that was like amazing, but you just bought everything basically. That was the standard. And then they increased the access to droplets, they reduced the cost of items, they introduced the boxes, and all of that just made it so that we would basically take a really big step back on the Absolab, like I explained before, and basically transition to Arcane way faster. But it got to the point now where people are like expecting to just get the stuff for free from the bosses, and that's, you should still see
Right.
that as like a happy little accident, but mostly the boxes will just, you'll maybe see like 1 or 2 boxes maybe before you get like through the whole 5 full set the first time. Mainly should see the boxes as like just speeding it up a little bit and as backups for going past 17 stars later. As expensive as the weapon is, I don't really know of anyone who's ever really regretted buying the weapon. It's just such a huge improvement over the Absolab. I don't know if you've looked at like the stat difference, right? Because of the flames as well. Yeah, this Arcane is just so much stronger. And for a bishop specifically, that's important because yes, you can get into parties very quickly because people want you if you know the mechanics and if you're using your benediction and your shell and all that stuff at the right time, right? And your I'm blanking on the name, but the thing that gives extra damage, the explosion thing. Peacemaker?
Let me.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, something like that. It's called yes, Peacemaker.
Yeah, so Peacemaker gives everyone more damage, and and the fountains you put down and all of that stuff, like it's all super helpful. But the downside is that the faster you get into these stronger parties, the harder it is for you to reach Blue Orb and do enough damage yourself, right?
Yes, I have
So
experienced that.
Yeah, and that's perfectly normal because not only are you weaker than most people to get into the into the parties in terms of self damage, but also because lack of skill and maybe lack of confidence a little bit, you're not going to be applying as high of a percentage of your potential damage to the boss just because you don't know the timings yet. You don't know where is it risky, where is it low risk, right? Like what things can you safely ignore, what things can you just tank and you don't have to get out of the way of it, right?
Right.
And that will all improve and that will all increase your damage without actually investing in your character. So it's really twofold. It's like practicing and just doing more and also improving your character at the same time, and these things will enforce each other and make it so that you just apply way more damage to the boss itself. But to circle back to the weapon, like buying the weapon is almost never a bad idea, especially not if you like need the damage quickly. So if you're like struggling to get into a party as a damage dealer, or if it's easy to get into a party but you're struggling to hit the blue orb, then an arcane weapon will make a huge difference over an Absolab weapon. So it is definitely worth saving up for. I would say more so than like the 19-star Absolab. I wouldn't think about that because like just the weapon itself, if you're thinking about MapleStory, to put it like in broader context, one of the things I see, for example, a lot, if people come from another game, as soon as they go into MapleStory, they look into their like equip tab and they'll see like so many different types of equips that you can equip, and they'll try to fill all the slots because it's like, well, there's still equips I can gain. But a lot of times, if you do, I don't know if you had that same feeling, but a lot of times if you do that, just whatever the equips could be in those slots could be weaker than just like one cube used on the right item at the right time, You could gain way more damage from just upgrading your emblem, your secondary, or your weapon properly and have your character just be naked otherwise, and you could do way more damage than someone who has every single slot filled, but it's just like rare or no potential or no flame, right? So it really comes down to where you spend your money and doing that at the right time. So if you feel insecurity based on that, then it's a good idea to just reach out and kind of get a feedback check and just see like, am I not going to like completely go in the wrong direction and potentially waste, because at the end you don't want to play like hyper efficiently, but you also don't want to make like dumb easily to avoid mistakes that just make you have to play twice as much to get the same kind of result, right?
Right. Yeah.
So hopefully we can hopefully we can outline that and kind of pinpoint that plan here. But I see some. So I hopefully that answers your question on the weapon. Like it is very expensive, but I think it's worth it, especially if it helps you, secure that blue dot every time. And the other thing that will give you a lot of damage is just more and more practice on the bosses. Speaking of the bosses, are you in doing like Lucid and Will? Is that like where you're at right now?
Yes, so I joined public listings for hard, lucid, and hard will. I've not tried to solo normal. I probably could, maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, you have unlimited solo options, right? So you can, if you do solo and you do practice mode, you can always turn on the buffs that you would have access to, but then your actual buffs don't go on cooldown. So it's a very low risk way of just getting familiar with how strong your character could be, and also with the mechanics. One of the good things to try, just going into Lucid P1, for example, is just to learn to get out of the way of the golems quickly when you see them. Don't teleport through them, right? That deals damage to you, even if you're teleporting through, so you can't do that. So you have to get out of the way of them before they land, and then you're kind of like locked in until they get cleared up, and then you have movement space again.
Right.
And then being able to identify the animation of the sickles is very important. Sickles you can teleport through, so that's the thing that you can go, if you go to like mid-distance away from Lucid, as soon as you see the sickles, wait for them to come close to you. Don't let them push you out to the outside of the map, because now you get out of range of Lucid, and if the dragon is on the other side, then you're kind of stuck. And if there's golems, you can't teleport to them. So it's a good idea to stay relatively close to Lucid, but just not like right on top of her. Or stay right on top of her, but as soon as you see the sickle animation, get away from her, wait for the sickles to clear, and then go back to the middle. The very middle of the boss fight is typically, like I said, it's typically very safe because the golems can't really land there, but then you're in the most danger for sickles. And it's hard to see which side the dragon spawns. So as soon as you see the animation for a dragon, that's also a good one to learn. So she plays like a pan flute, and there's a green smoke coming out of it. That's when you know the dragon is coming. There should also be a notification on the screen when a dragon is summoned. And typically it's a good idea to go kind of like to one side of the map a little bit, just a little bit off the side to the middle, and then you can hopefully see the dragon coming down. And if you don't see it coming down, it's going to be spawning on the other side. So one thing to practice is the timing of your up jump and then your float. Have you used that before?
Yes, I think with hard will and hard lucid, I am pretty good at not dying. There's just one mechanic with will and part 3 that I can't seem to avoid.
The teleport?
It's when his eyes aren't lemons and you have to move.
Yeah.
And he slams down, but I don't know when to move. So I die every single time where he does that.
Yeah,
But
it's a
everything else
very...
is
Okay. Yeah, it's a very tight window, but essentially, he raises up his legs, and as soon as you see the leg moving to go slam down, then you teleport to the side. But it's a very narrow window. I've heard bishops do other things, like just go up the platforms, little platforms on the side, and then just down jump. One thing I've heard people do...
in part 3?
Yeah, little platforms up the side where with like a little rope.
What?
Yep.
Is this hard will? Will?
Hard will. Yeah, you get like, sometimes you get like caught on the ladder.
Wow.
If you jump.
Okay.
The ladder leads up to like small extra platforms. Yeah. And another thing some people do, because it's a leg coming down, what some people do is they up jump right before it hits, and then they duck when they land. And then the leg will come down in your position, but it won't reach all the way to the bottom, and it actually just hits over your head. So there's quite a few things, if you think about it, that you could use to dodge, but the safest thing is just either ethereal form or, get better at the pattern for dodging. There is a little thing you can try here. It's not perfect, but it gives you a little bit of a indication here on when the... you can try this. You can give yourself the teleport option there. And it takes a little bit to load, but essentially it's a little mini game that somebody made where you can really look at the animation, purely see the animation of the of Will, and then teleport is V. Oh yeah, so like if it reaches up, and then as soon as it starts to slam down, I believe that's the point to teleport, and then you should not see like a little hit animation.
This is pretty cute. Okay, yes.
Of course,
does
sometimes
it give you
there's
confirmation? Does it give you confirmation on whether you failed or not? It doesn't. Does
yeah,
it?
look, if I don't move, it says got hit.
Oh, got hit. Okay.
Yeah. So I look for the leg as soon as it starts coming down. So that was a little late, but as soon as you see it like move away from its apex, basically, then you teleport, and then you should be good.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, there in the run itself, there could be a little bit of delay or, a little bit of lag, a little bit of desync. So ideally, you're just not in that phase for too long. And between regular binds, origins, and stuff, hopefully the boss is just immobile for quite a bit. And hopefully you don't die too much in P1 and P2. You keep most of your lives. You use your ethereal form whenever you can. And you should never die out. But it is probably one of the most annoying things for teleport. But rest assured, pretty much all the other bosses in the entire game, teleport is a superior mobility option, and it definitely balances out how annoying it is in Hardwell P3.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the transition into Arcane, I guess, because you were talking about the droplets and the boxes. Typically, you want to attack it on all fronts at the same time. So whenever there are droplets available in shops, it's a good idea to just buy them if you can. You don't want it to interfere too much with other things, but you basically just want to see them as a 50 mil a pop value, and then kind of think about, with all event shops, it's a good idea to think about it this way, is that just every coin, how much value does a coin give me? And then you can translate some to meso, some to time, but it's a good idea to also translate the meso then to time again, so that you can compare it 1-to-1 and kind of see which items just for your account have a better time value than which other ones. That's generally what you want to do. So if you make 200 mil an hour when you're training or something, or have one boss mule that maybe you don't really have boss mules yet, but maybe you can make 500, 600 mil on a character, once a week. Then 12 droplets is a whole week of a boss mule essentially. So if you can buy some of those, you're saving yourself this many weeks with the currency of an event. That's the general thought for it. So
Yes.
typically at this stage of the game, just buying the droplets whenever you can in event shops is a great idea, because it's just a huge discount on the actual weapon or items when you buy it. And again, boxes are great, but in your case, I wouldn't wait for the weapon, especially not if you wanted to, because you're buying yourself more boxes essentially by getting the weapon, because you'll be able to easily get the blue dot, which means you'll be able to get a box at every boss. You'll probably be able to transition towards more bosses pretty soon with that, probably towards Chaos Gloom pretty quickly, and maybe even into Hard Vihila pretty quickly. And then you go from, instead of 2 chances a week, you go to 4 chances a week, and with every harder boss, the chance of the box also increases. It's not affected by drop rate, but it is affected by the difficulty of the boss. So the more difficult bosses you do, the more chances of boxes, and the higher the chance per boss.
Yes, I have bought out all the droplets from event shops.
Okay, that's good. Well, because you said here is about 7 bill, so are you including in that the upgrade costs, or the base? Oh no, the base is 10, right? So you would have to pay another 7.
Yes, it's the remainder that I would need.
Mm-hmm.
Would be
and how much money would you say you make around per week now?
If we look at the taxable income section of the document,
Taxable
we
income.
have so it is low. It is quite low. So for sure. But I'm not sure. It might be a little more. I might be lowballing, but 1.5 per week, and then Boss Mule has 740 there, so 2.3 maybe.
Yeah. Are you including Ursus and Maple Tour in that as well?
I don't do Maple Tour.
Okay. So just but Ursus are you doing?
Ursus, yes, I should be doing Ursus, but Hyperion basically has a 1-hour window where you need to do it if you want to do 18 players. I know you can do it by yourself, but that sounds lonely, so I don't do that. I think you just do 5% and you leave. Is that?
Well, yeah, usually I just do Ursus until it kills me, and typically by the time it has skills that can actively kill you, you've done enough, and then you can just die and you're fine. But it's just because it's 100 mil a day, right? So if you do that once a day, it's 700 mil a week, so it's basically a free boss meal.
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah.
I just like seeing 18
it adds
other
up.
people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it adds up. You can also just find 2 or 3 other people who also don't really like doing it, and just do it with a group of 3. Then it'll just take less than a minute per run, right? I do it with my stream, and we just all join up at the same time on the same day every time, and then just go in and hit it and then go out. Yeah. It's just because it's 100 mil a day. It's really good for new players to get that starting income. And then once you have like 6 boss mules and you have like endless grinding that you want to do, then you just do whatever you feel like on that time. You want to skip Ursus, that's totally fine. But I think like over the whole time that I've played Maple, Ursus itself has probably made me about 200 bill or something, because it does.
Right. Yeah, it is a
Over
lot.
the years, it just adds up tremendously. So definitely
I love
don't.
that
I wouldn't underestimate it this early on. Maple Tour is like, I mean, if you do the whole Maple Tour, it's about 300 a week. So like Ursus plus Maple Tour is about a bill a week. So
I don't want to do Maple Tour.
yeah. No, I understand. There's some things you have to draw the line somewhere. I think that's so fine. That's okay. If you're already doing like Monster Park 7 times a day, and then Maple Tour feels like more of the same. Definitely is.
Right.
Are there any other like bossing mules that you're working on, or do you feel like you're good?
I could. So I don't feel like I'm good. I feel like I am expected to have a lot more at this point. But again, it kind of ties back to not having a clear. Before I had a pretty clear idea of get to point A, get to point B. But now that the ideas are kind of starting to unravel, I don't know what specifically I'm making the money for. Obviously, it's great to always have lots of money, but I think if I get a clearer idea, if I know that I'm not sabotaging myself, then I'd be more motivated to do more boss mules, probably because then I have a clear goal. I do have.
Yes, because their
So
purpose
I
is
do
just
have.
income. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have an angelic buster.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's only up to Duo, Lotus, and Damien though.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't tried. I don't know if she can solo it. I do have a temporary CRA on a Buccaneer, so that could very
Mm-hmm.
much be the next boss mule. Is from my understanding, I think at my point, at my progression level, I think Chaos Root Abyss is enough to get to for boss mules. Is that?
It's a super personal thing in terms of like how hard you want to push things. What a lot of people do is they can just start bringing out like what they just call CRA boss mules, and then maybe you include like you can like maybe include HMAG into that, because like HMAG compared to CVEL, kind of
Oh
depending on
yes,
the boss,
that's
but
it.
they're like
Yeah.
around the same level, right? But it can easily include, Chaos Ping Bean and Normal Cygnus and Chaos Sakum and like all of those bosses. So it would essentially be everything from, well, I think Hard Hilla is like the lowest crystal that's like worth a damn to sell. So it'd be like Hard Hilla, 3-door, and then Chaos Ping Bean. Princess No will probably take too much time, so it makes sense for people to skip that in the beginning. And then Chaos Vellum, Hard Magnus, that's usually like the first block for bosses. And then, or even before that, some people just do Hard Hilla and just 3-door, and then that's it. It's totally up to you, like how what approach you want to do. But some people just do the approach in numbers. They do a lot of characters, and then they kind of use that to feel out which characters do they even like bossing on and which ones do they hate. And if you like it, then you can push further, and and you can add CVEL, you can add Magnus, and then later the next group is like adding Akechi and CPAP usually. And then after that would be like adding Lotus and Damien, and after that would be adding Slime, Easy Lucid. There's like a different tiers, different layers that you can do. But I think it's a good idea to make as many boss mules as you feel comfortable with, that you have time for, and as many as you want to boss. Some people want to grind a lot, so it's perfectly fine to only have like 1 or 2 boss mules and that's it, because you can make a lot of money grinding as well. Plus you can make fragments, right? And that goes back into your question of like, what am I doing it for? You're doing it ultimately to get your main character stronger, right? But there's multiple ways money is one way to do that, but there's many other ways of making your character stronger. Familiar farming, building your Hexa Matrix are insane ways of gaining a lot of damage that don't have anything directly to do with Meso, right? But while you're training, you also make Meso. So you can definitely use that in part to compensate, if you will, for having fewer bossing mules. Personally, I don't like grinding. I don't do it very much, so I have a lot of boss mules, so I can still maintain decent progress through the game in terms of equipment growth.
Right. I think what I will do is I'll have 2 more characters. So I'll have 3 bossing mules who will go up to soloing Ordor and Hard Magnus, I think that is. the plan.
Yep. I would just say, yeah, just keep adding as long as you want, and just stay as long as you invest in them like minimalistically. Then it's also easy to just drop them if you don't like them anymore, or if you just don't have the time. The harder you invest and the faster you do it, the more it'll feel like you're stuck having to play them so that you can recoup those investments, right? That's just always the advice I give people. Yep. So just like steady as she goes. And then if you have a little bit of familiarization with the character and you know what they can do, then whenever a hyper burn or something like that comes around, you'll also have immediately input for that on like, this is a character I actually really like. I want to do higher level bosses with it. Maybe even has it as a side main. And then you immediately know what character you want to burn. And you already can play it so you can efficiently level it as well. So that's always a bonus there as well.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, so income is going to be a bottleneck. You're pretty early on, so that's normal. The second thing that's usually a big bottleneck is your backups, right? And if you're thinking about, in general, in broad strokes, like where do I spend my money? Because there's so many things to spend your money on. One of the big things is like the calculators. Those will help in just calculating what is the average cost and what is a smart idea to go for and what can you expect in return with a certain amount of money you spend. But the other thing is your income and your backups, right? Your backups will, in great detail, basically determine what is a smart idea to do or not, because it'll determine your risk for reaching your goal or not with the funds that you have. So a lot of times what I tell people is look at your backups in your account and let that basically tell you what your next project should be. For most people, it's always CRA, and that's why you have 19-star CRA there. That's a direct result of how many backups you can realistically get for CRA. Because you can easily get backups, you essentially get value from the backups because you don't have the safeguard, and therefore it's also a lower risk and a higher guarantee of gains and of progress by doing that. And in doing so and spending your money on that, you give yourself a little bit more time and a little bit more odds to get luckier on other pieces. So it is perfectly possible that your CRA gets to like 21 stars before you get anything else past 17. Because what's going to happen once you get to 19-star CRA and everything else was already 17, you're going to be moving into Arcanes. And those are going to be pricey. There's going to be some time in between, right? Time to bring your money back up every time. But those are pretty much going to be keeping on eating up your money, which might seem like you're not making huge gains. But the great thing about that is during those weeks, during those months, you'll be getting a lot of backups from other pieces. So once the Arcanes are done, now you look back at your inventory and now you can look at what you have. Maybe by that time, usually what happens is you have 30 pink bean belts or something, and hopefully you have your superior Golics completely done by then. Now you can start doing high star forcing, like the fodder, right, to transfer hammer into the superior, so you don't have the risk potentially booming the superior pieces. Usually the ring, the belt and the earring usually come first. And potentially the ring, if you got lucky with Princess Snow, right? You got kind of treasure rings, and then maybe kind of treasure rings to transfer hammer into a superior ring. Those are usually the pieces that come around that time.
Okay, so after 19-star CRA, do we go 19-star belt and earring based off orders?
So when it comes to foddering, every single time you familiar with transfer hammer and how it works?
Yes, I have. That's what I did for the superior belt and the superior earring. I got reinforced earrings up to 20, I guess. Must be 20, yeah. And I transferred it to superior earrings, and then I got the pink bean belts to 18. And then I transferred it to the Golics belt. So then what would be next, I guess? Because this is where I think maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself, because obviously I don't have a spare superior Golics ring or a spare I don't have too many Kana rings. I got my first one this week, I think. Yeah, this week. So I'm not sure if
Well, so one thing that generally happens, and I see it here happen a little bit, is that people go a little bit overboard on potentials because because star forcing past 17 or past 17 seems so ominous because your items can boom, right?
Yes, it hurts your feelings.
Yeah, definitely. However, the diminishing returns, quote unquote, like on percentage stat, and the extra cost on tiering up to legendary plus rolling with way more expensive cubes in legendary is very high that early on. And star forcing comparatively past 17 star, though scary, as long as you have the backups, is way cheaper. So I think at this point your potentials are probably way above what you would expect the Star Force to be. So if I'm looking in general like at your gear here, it makes for me a lot of sense to really just all send on, because that's the one thing I wanted to mention, right? Backups. What is the other thing that determines backups? Is versus like doing all of your bosses and getting blue dots at least, right? But second of all is getting as much drop rate as possible. So you're definitely at that situation where having like full drop rate gear, because you didn't mention the current drop rate gear, but do you have like a 5 and 4 set?
It is under the drop heading
here? Yeah.
Gear. It's 80/80 right now, single lines.
Okay.
And a note about, because the potentials are very much desynced with the Star Force, but that's mainly because of that miracle event, right, with the accessories. I just wanted to get everything to legendary. I haven't spent that much money on cubes, so these are kind of just kind of a few rolls after tearing up kind of thing. I haven't committed a ton of, because I'm very hesitant about spending large amounts of money. So even on cubes, I don't spend that much. But with that event, it helped a lot with getting all the accessories to legendary. And then now I'm kind of waiting for the Star Force event, hence things being very strange and staggered looking.
Yeah, there's probably some kind of Star Force event coming soon. We'll have to wait for the patch notes to see the details.
Yes.
Say 240, because that's your own drop rate, and 80 from equips, potion.
It does include the Legion buff as well, which I
Inner
have
Legion artifact, and and you have a 50% the rare drop for familiar.
It's
for drop
actually
rate?
Purple, which is epic, right? But it only gives 50, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, it can. It's a.
That's cursed.
That's a great thing. Yeah, there's sometimes the lines that look exactly the same can just be a different number. So you can see here, increase item meso and drop rate by a small amount can be 20 on rare and epic, but it can be 25 on epic and unique. So if it's an epic one, it could be 20 or 25. So you have this one, increase item and drop rate, but it could be 50 on epic, but it could also be 60 on epic.
Right.
But the exact same name line, so Nexon logic.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yes,
but if you summon it and you see, then that's the number you have. But 240 is already really nice. But yeah, you have it correctly identified, I think, that. So if you are opening the box, I would say getting one more drop rate line on a greed pendant is a good idea, just to get to that 100 at least.
Yeah.
And going for a large drop rate, I think, is a really good idea, and I think having that number one is the best idea to have, just because it snowballs everything else, right? Like I said, it doesn't affect the arcane boxes, but it affects ring boxes, it affects pitches, daybreaks, fragments, just pretty much anything, not everything. I don't know if you've looked through this a little bit or not, but I try to do a full breakdown here of like drop rate and how it works, what it affects, what are the caps, what are the goals and the different stages and everything. And you've definitely identified at least like.
This?
This is my drop rate command.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the chat.
Yeah. So I've got like the definitions, sources, early game, mid game goals. So I think you pretty much have this. I think it's just that one line off here. I usually start with like 100 meso for drop, right? Because you've got your 9 equips, just to make sure you maximize the money in the beginning, because you have virtually no income coming in. Again, like you have Ursa's Maple Tour, and people probably don't even have bossing mules then yet, so you just want to maximize the money you get while you're training, because you need that money to be able to build up to get the full drop rate set, like get one whole set of 180 to 200 drop rate for opening the boxes and everything that you're working towards. That's usually like the next step. Where exactly I would rank that, mean, you're pretty close to 17 starring everything. I imagine the next event you'll want to do like number 2 and 3. And then instead of number 4 here having this, I would say making one drop set with like 180% drop. So at least 9 pieces of drop, so including that greed pendant, and just having one line of drop on all the 9 pieces of accessory when you're opening a box is probably the next goal to do after that. But it could come before that if you see that the next star forcing event is quite late in the event, for example. So the best thing for that to do is to use a calculator to just kind of see how much it's going to cost, and that will help you.
Calculators, yeah, and that's where I got the idea that it's going to be super expensive. Therefore, I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, what would you call super expensive, right? Because the cost of things stays the same, but the risk compared to everything else you could be doing, it gets more value. And if things go well, then your income goes up as well. So what is 2 bill now is still 2 bill in a year, but in a year 2 bill is going to be nothing to you versus 2 bill being a lot now, right?
Right, like for reference, right now my Zanium Sacred Symbol is at level 6, but I don't want to level it up because it's like half a bill to level it up. I don't want to do that. But I probably should.
Half a bill is a lot at this point, yeah.
Yeah, it is. So that is my threshold for a lot. Half a bill.
Well, could you break down the 1.5 bill here a bit more? Is this just training, or where does that come from?
No, I've completely excluded training from that
Okay.
because I guess I didn't think I'd make a substantial amount from training. Those are just from the weekly bosses plus the daily bosses that I do. And yes, I haven't included a training amount.
And how much would you say you do train?
Not enough. I should do better. No, I'm just kidding. Probably. I think I did an hour solid day. Yeah.
And then you wear that gear?
That gear as in the little screenshot of the drop? Yes.
Yeah, the 8080. Yeah.
The experience pendant, yes.
And have you ever done like a BA to check kind of like how much EXP, how much meso, how many monster kills, that kind of thing you do in that hour?
I'm definitely one of those people who avoid things like BA and solid numbers. Which doesn't make sense probably. But no, I don't have that. I know that I was supposed to include battle analysis in this document, but...
Well, you don't have to. It's mostly when people try to see, like, I don't know if I can do the next boss or something, then I think it's relevant to add a BA so you can have a little bit more to go off of.
Yeah, I didn't think the money I would make during training is substantial enough to add it to my...
Well, if you do an hour a day, I mean, I would be...
And I do use the Legion buff.
Yeah.
A lot of money as well in that when I'm training.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if you make like less than 200 mil an hour. That would be very low. So if you do an hour a day, then you're making about an extra 1.5 bill a week, I would say.
Wow.
Because it does... The consistency there, like all the little bits do add up quite a bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if your income is like closing in on like double what you think if you consistently train.
Right.
And that does paint a different picture in terms of like what is expensive and what is a lot of money. If it will take you like 2/3 or like half of the time that you think it's going to take, right? Because then some kind of project is not like this is a month of my money. It could be like 2 weeks of your money. Or if you train extra hard for 1 week, maybe you can get it done in 1 week, you know? And then it becomes a way more reasonable upgrade to make.
Yes.
So again, yeah, we don't have to be like super efficient and hyper accurate about everything. But in terms of if you're thinking about it a little bit more in like the emotional sense of like, I don't know if I want to part with this amount of money because I don't know if it's a good decision. Going off of how much it actually is worth in terms of time might reshape, you know, what is reasonable and what is not. So that's why I like using the calculator just to have a general idea. Because like here, you know, let's say you wait for the next 5, 10, 15. No safeguard. Do you have access to the star catching room in your guild?
I do not. No, I don't.
Okay.
There is not.
Yeah. It's just it's not that impactful at this level, but at the higher level it becomes quite a bit of a difference.
Does sound nice, yeah.
Yep. I don't know, how common it is in Hyperion. That build up to that first room is quite steep. You have to get a very rare drop from high level bosses, so that takes quite a bit. But even this, if you wait 5 to 15, 17 to 19, like no safeguard on CRA, like on average, there's only like one boom here. But yeah, so that's like on average is like 2.2 bill. Yeah, I mean it seems very expensive, but if you add all the, it's like when you have it, it's just like guaranteed stats, right? Then you have it. You don't have to like roll for the potential, all that stuff anymore. You don't have to work on the flames anymore. Like you have it, and that's a lot of stat and magic attack, and it piles up over multiple pieces. Plus, once this money is there and you spend your money, then you have to wait until the money comes back. So this is why I like waiting for events, not because it's more efficient in terms of in the moment itself, but you know that you're doing like the efficient thing. So it's almost like a green light to like zero out to it in a way, so that you have time until the next event to get more backups, and then you can see what the next project should be, basically.
Yes, so that's... Yes, I was hoping that I would know what to zero out on with the next possible 30% or 5, 10, 15.
Yeah, so I don't really like the 30% offs.
Yes, I know. I think you said you prefer. I think I would agree on that.
They are very similar in if you're not safeguarding, they are pretty similar. You just boom more, which you already said you don't really like, but just if you just look at just up to 19, like the rate of booms, it stays pretty conclusively at the most unlucky here is 7 booms, 7, 8, 9, 7. But if you go to 30% off, it can very easily, you got 15, 16, 14, 15, 13, 17, 22. It's just the standard deviation goes way wider. Your average cost stays about the same, like it doesn't change very much. It's around the same. You're just gonna have you're gonna be booming more. But if you boom more, that means you're gonna on average get closer to this number. You're very unlikely to get way cheaper than that. So, and early on in the game, because you don't have an insane amount of things to spend on, you don't want to start overspending even more on potentials or feel like you have to go way harder on flames or anything. So as long as the arcanes are not coming in, you can treat 30% off in 5, 10, 15 as pretty much the same, so that you just don't sit on your money forever. I don't know how much money you have right now. Do you have everything on you?
I have 9.5 bill right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself getting attached to that money, or? A little?
So as long as I know what... I'm okay with zeroing out as long as... But I guess for the next event, what I would do, even before today, would just be seeing if I can get to 9-star CRA without too much emotional damage. And I mean, there won't be because CRA is so replaceable.
Yeah.
But after that, I guess, is where the uncertainty would be. Because I do not plan to spend any more potential, really. On cubes, I don't see myself needing many cubes now.
Yeah, I mean, real weapon would be something to spend on, right, when you get it?
Right, yes, definitely. But other than that, I guess drop gear, obviously, to get to 180, I would need to spend probably a lot on that. I guess that would be the next item to spend money on after 19-star CRA or before. I'm not.
So the main thing, because we are close to an event, the main thing I would do is wait for this Tuesday, see the patch notes and see what time the event is and what event it is, and then go based on that. On like mark your calendar and be like, this day I'm going to be spending, I don't know, roughly like this amount of money. And if that's more than you have right now, then don't work on anything else. If that average is quite a bit below what you already have, then I feel like you can already start working on getting those more drop pieces, like one at a time, and make sure that you save within a healthy margin a little bit more. So if, the next event you want to get 19 CRA, it's a little bit over 2 a bill each, say like you save like 2.5 each, so 7.5 you want to have set aside for that project, for example. on the next event. Anything over 7.5, I think you can really start spending on extra drop gear until you get close to being able to you get maybe a little bit impatient. You want to make sure that you can buy the arcane weapon. I don't know how you're doing in droplets for the arcane weapon.
Oh yes, I think so. Right now I have 15. I think of lucid. Yes, I have 15 butterflies.
Yeah, and you're doing
So-
hard weekly, so you could 3 more clears.
Yes, I am doing
Yeah.
hard lucid and Will weekly.
Yeah, so 3 more clears, and say that you do get like the 1.5 from grinding, then you get like 3.7 weekly. So that's like 2 weeks of money for the droplets, right?
Oh, true. Yeah.
And you have 3 more weeks, so that means you could probably spend at least 3.5 plus the 7.5 and the 9 that you have, so you could spend at least like 5.5 more on drop rate, which means that you could, in like 3 weeks, have enough to get your CR rate to 19, have the arcane weapon, and have the full 180% drop rate equipment set, for example.
Right.
That could be like a project for like the next 3 weeks. I think that would set you up quite nicely to have like all around a good foundation. Now, if in that time you can also somehow pull a large drop rate familiar out of a hat, then you're set for quite a bit. Because I think that's a good thing to work on as well. Like besides but you're grinding in the area where familiars are dropping, right?
Currently, when I'm trying to train, no. So I used to train in Cernium, where they do have familiar cards. I guess I'm kind of thinking that, hey, they'll probably put in drop cards for hotels soon, right?
No.
Yeah,
No, they're not going to. No, this already took years to get them in Cernium. So I would stay in Burning Cernium, or Cernium, like whatever map you can. To again, you're trying to get your character stronger. You're cutting back a little bit into the EXP you could be getting, but you're still getting money and you're getting fragments, which is a huge part of getting stronger, building your Hexamatrix, and working on the large drop rate familiar. It's very indirect in terms of getting you stronger, but large drop rate familiar will get you ring boxes, and rings will just get you insanely stronger when you do hit. And just exposing yourself to as many chances as possible of getting those ring boxes is like paramount of getting like free upgrades essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is
Plus,
very hard to get.
It is very hard, yeah. And pitch waiting room already takes forever, so the quicker you get your drop rate set completed, just the faster you have any hopes of getting out of there.
Right.
And in general, you basically, if you have no drop rate, right, every week has like a value of 1 in terms of 1 chance of getting a thing to drop, right? Let's say a kind of treasure ring. Let's say that if you have no drop rate over a year, you might get like 5 kind of treasure rings or something, right? It will be very low. But if you have all the drop rate you can get, then over a year you might get like 25 kind of treasure rings, right? And now you can just make so much different choices. You just have you even have the possibility to make different options. But if you don't have drop rate, you're just you have to surrender yourself completely to whatever the odds are that you're getting. And you will get unlucky on some things, right? You might not hit as many kind of treasure rings, but then you probably will get like a superior drop here or there. Or if you get no superior ring, earring or belt to drop, that's possible. But then you probably will also not get like 0 ring boxes. Like something, the more drop rate you give, the more chances that something will just come through for you. And then you can use that to pull up like all of the negative you get somewhere else for not getting lucky.
Yes. That's why it's at number 1. Large
Yep.
drop rate.
Yes, large drop rate. And I would say just going for that complete like set of like 9 drop rates, so like 180. I think that's a good thing to have as well as like a priority. But again, if you're looking at the money that you have, I think that's probably a good thing to just put on like number 1 as well, like while you're working on that, like in terms of your money expenses, to put that towards getting a set with 9 drop rate. And
number 2?
in the but then keeping enough money on the back end, right, to be able to afford either the arcane weapon by the time you have enough droplets, so you have 3 weeks for that, and to keep an eye out on the patch notes for when the next Star Force event is, and to keep around 7.5 bill for when that comes around so that you can get your CRA to 19.
Right.
Yeah, and then you finish.
Yeah.
I would only finish off 17 star everything probably on a 5, 10, 15 because comparative to a 30% off, that's a little weird for the gains, I think, but we can double check. 16, 17. Which pieces was that mainly?
For 17 starring stuff,
Yeah.
it would be a lot. It would be, sorry, let me scroll up. So it would be Superior Golux ring. It would be a Superior pendant. It would be the Meister ring. It would be Kana's treasure. It would be Sweetwater pendant if I'm supposed to use that. Possibly Black Bean mark if I get another one. I've only seen one on this character's life somehow. And then Sweetwater tattoo if I'm supposed to be using that.
How did the Black Bee mark end up as a trace?
I pushed the button and it blew up.
So you didn't safeguard it specifically?
No.
Okay. Is that something you're gonna change or? Let you know that accidents happen.
It was silly to push a button when I didn't have a spare. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily right. If you're okay with the outcome,
yeah,
then it's
I was
not
okay
silly.
with because I wasn't depending on this one. As you can see, it doesn't really have a potential, and it was kind of, I haven't flamed it either. I was just using my what's the newbie one? The aquatic letter.
Aquatic letter eye accessory. Yeah.
Yeah, is that the one? Yeah, that's the one. That is the one I'm using right now. And I just got the Black Bean one, and it was the event for the Star Wars. So I thought, hey, I should totally get this to 17, but yeah, didn't work out.
No. So mainly if you're replacing boss accessory stuff, the main thing with boss accessory stuff is that it just, there's only very few things that can go over 15 stars, which basically means you can keep it at like 10 or 11 or 12, and it's that's pretty much as good as it's gonna get. 15 is usually, I usually say don't get things to 15 unless you're gonna get them past 15, right? Because going up to 15 is very expensive. It almost gives you no stats. You're basically paying like the admittance fee to be able to play in the 15 plus area, which is where all the weapon and magic attack come in basically, and the big stats start coming in. So for items like you look at the aquatic letter eye accessory, right? I think it caps out at what, 8 stars or something, or maybe is it 8 or 10?
Yes. It's
8. Yeah. So that means if you look at the bonus stats, it's just trash, right? But the fact that the Black Beam mark can go past 15 and then up to 17 is something like 30 something weapon or magic attack. That just makes it so much better than the alternative. That I think for your first one, it's worth either, if you don't have the money, holding, and if you have the money, safeguarding it, so that you can guarantee that 17, guarantee a strong upgrade from the condensed, from the aquatic letter eye accessory, and that you can also specifically determine this one to be for damage at that point and have a specific damage piece separate from a mobbing piece. And for that reason, I would say it's probably a good idea to continue with the Sweetwater pendant at least to 17 for this first one, because you already vested into getting legendary potential on it. So that's already a large part of the investment, and I would say to honor that investment, it makes sense more to just continue on this one at least up to 17, and then kind of wait there. And then, because what are you going to be working on? You're going to be working on CRA to 17, up to 19. You're going to be working on Arcanes, then probably CRA to 21, and then fodder to 21 to transfer into 20-star superior. So probably the belt, the earring, and then maybe the ring as well. And then after that, you're going to be looking at the pendants typically. And by that point, you can see, okay, well, if you have still only like 1 or 2 dominators, that limits your options. But if by that point you have like 10 dominators and you have like some daybreak pendants, now you can have a bunch of options and a bunch of scenarios where you could think like this is a potential upgrade. God forbid you have like a source of suffering or something like that, right? If you want to give yourself even more options, what you can do by then is also have Dineros from Commercy. That gives you even more options than at that point, especially if you only have like still 2 or 3 dominators and maybe only 1 daybreak. That will limit the options that you can do in terms of like dependence. But if you have at the same time like 1,500 Dineros lying around, then there's always that to fall back on, and you can always get a 21 Sweetwater pendant pretty cheaply. And then that will again give you basically a break to have an even longer period where you can just go on doing the dailies of Arcarium, right? Doing your weeklies, and give yourself a possibility of more backups once 21 to 22 becomes like a potential thing to worry about.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, so if for like VMark, I not salt in the wound, but I would have safeguarded this one for 17 just to get those guaranteed upgrades early on. And then if you get another one, then you can always say I'm going to YOLO the other one, or I'm going to walk them up one at a time, or I'm going to try for 19. If it doesn't go, I'll sell back for 17. Then again, then options arise. But so if you want to have maximum exposure here, you can do normal ping bean daily because it can drop it, and then make sure you do chaos ping bean. That way you can optimize your chances of getting drops. And again, if you have all the drop rate completed, right, the 180 and maybe the large drop, then every single run will just have that much more value, and then you'll have a higher chance that you within a realistic amount of time you will see some backups that you can do something with. But yeah, there's quite some stuff up to 17. So in general, it's cheaper. Use 30% to get up to 15, and then 5, 10, 15 to go past 15. But yeah, you'll have to look. If there's like a 30% off event first, and then like 2 weeks later there's a 5, 10, 15, right? Then that kind of would be perfect. Then you can use the 30% off to get everything up to 15, and then wait 2 weeks, get your money back, and then slam everything to 17. If it's the other way around, then you can probably just use whatever event comes first. They'll be roughly the same. But just know, in general, if you are not going to safeguard, then 5, 10, 15 and 30% off are about the same. If you are going to safeguard, then 5, 10, 15 is quite a bit cheaper. So then it might be worth waiting for that.
Yeah, I didn't think the pink bean thing was worth safeguarding because I didn't think it was. I thought it would be a little more common than it is to me at the moment. So, but yeah, it's been a trace for some. I feel like it's been a trace for like a month now, probably.
Yeah. A reminder of a choice that could have been made differently. Yeah.
Yes, it haunts me.
Yeah, just like items past level 127, right? They can go past 15 stars, so then they're worth the damn, I would say. And then items level past 137, they can go past 20 stars, so then they just have that potentiality. It's like I think you have one Meister ring, right? Or did I? Yeah.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So it like the base stats, and in general, you'll see just like every item in this game, basically base stats are just trash. Yeah, absolute garbage. Like a level 1 item will basically have the same stats almost as a level 200 item. Like they're barely different. It all comes from how many stars you can get on it. That's where all of the power spike comes from, and specifically past 17. But you're still in like the up to 17 range. But like past 17 is where the real damage starts coming. And I don't know if you've ever just like looked at the calculators and throw some numbers in, but if you're looking at like star forcing from like 19 to 21 or something on like an arcane, that's when like the real you're safeguarding, of course, like that's when like the real costs start happening. But if you compare that to doing that on CRA, where the value per star is quite a bit less, but like the average cost there is just so much lower. Yeah, it's like it's only a third, right? So you're pretty much always going to have like your CRA is going to be like 21 before you even get your arcanes to 17, and then your arcanes to 19 is probably going to happen before you go CRA past 21, but then CRA is going to be 22 before your arcane even goes up to like 20 or 21 or 22. Just because in terms of value you get per money, it's just so high, and again, it's way less risky because you have way more backups, so it's a way more reasonable upgrade to try to make.
Okay.
I try to be as like specific with the things you were saying, but I feel we probably skipped over some things. I don't know, because you said that you had like lower confidence and lower knowledge, but it seems like you were connecting with a lot of things I was already saying. So I don't know which things I can reasonably skip and which things you already knew, but it seems like you knew way more than you let on in the beginning.
Oh, sorry.
No, well, that's sorry.
I didn't feel like I do.
Okay. Well, there's maybe you're like at the top of that hill, I don't know.
Imposter syndrome thingy? The graph?
Yeah, well, like where you start knowing what you don't know, and then you feel like you don't know a whole lot of things, but that's only because you know so much.
I know nothing.
Yeah, you know. Okay, easy there, Jon Snow. Okay, so got the CRA out of the way. We got the potential Absolab situation out of the way, right?
Yep.
We talked about the weapon. The shield is pretty much gonna like follow CRA typically, because you tend to have about as many backups.
Yeah,
And you
it's
could just
already blown up twice, so I don't like
yeah,
them.
that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's then, but that's the price of doing business, right? I know that feels
Yeah.
bad, but in the end, blowing up the shield like 10 times is gonna cost you less than trying to go for like 3-line magic attack or something in potential, right?
Yeah.
It like sucks as a cost, but you always want to compare it to like what's the alternative and how much would that cost. And if it's even if it's unlucky, if it's the cheapest option, mathematically it's just the best way to go. Even if it sucks, kind of have to try to overpower that that voice that's like I don't want to. You just have to kind of go through it. But you got a 40 IED and 2-line magic attack, so this one is definitely worth just pushing instead of trying to make. So sometimes what people will do, they'll hit like 2-line magic attack and just a silly 3rd line, and then maybe they'll make another one on the side, see if they can get a better potential, and then Star Force that one up instead. That way you could save yourself cost in terms of cubing and everything, but yours is in a really good spot, so I would just keep going with the existing one.
Okay.
Emblem is fine. 3-lining that is probably after you get like 19 Arcanes and 21 to 22 CRA or something. That's probably after that, typically. Basically, it's like cube sale, it's about 30 bill. Off cube sale is about 42 bill if you want to get 3-line. That's like a number
42
that I happen to know.
Okay.
Yeah. So
if
a cube sale is around 30 bill is definitely like a big saving there. But the downside, of course, is that it's kind of an all or nothing roll. There's not too many rolls you could get that are better. You'd have to hit an IED or a damage line. Yeah, crit wouldn't be better for you because you have already so much crit. So there's very few outs that would be better. So that's typically something for around cube sale. The cube sales, to remember, is typically around end of November and middle of May. That's typically when cube sales are.
Okay, I probably won't try to 3-line it. I don't
No,
know.
I'm just saying that in general, like to put it into perspective. Because that could be something that you see other people have, and it is it is a really big damage increase, but comparative to like getting other things really far, it is reasonable as an upgrade, but it is still pretty far away. Just to kind of like place it in the general thing. Honestly, if everything goes well, this could be something that you might end up considering, like probably not come November, but like next May, like around the anniversary, could be something. The only downside is that around the same area, so usually around June and around December is typically when we have the Shining Star Force event. So 5, 10, 15, and 30% off at the same time. And then so for those calculations, you can just tick the boxes for 5, 10, 15, and 30% off at the same time, and you can see like the amount of money you would save on like, the Arcanes and everything. Like that was around 12 bill, right? So now it's 7. So multiply that by all the pieces, and you just essentially for all the time you spent making money, you're like retroactively giving all of that time like 40% more money, by spending it at the right time. So that's just a huge way to increase your potential gains. So those are like the important dates to look at, and then cubing off event I think is fine. That's why I'm saying like feel free to push now for the drop rate gear. The cube sale isn't soon, and we don't know when 5, 10, 15 is coming or 30% off is coming. And even if it is coming, your projects are somewhat limited in terms of how much you're going to be spending on all of that. So I think it's a good idea to work on a drop rate now.
Okay.
Yeah, like worst case, we have a 5, 10, 15 before 30% off, and it's like in one of the first 2 weeks that you might have to make some choices. Maybe then you just go for 17 everything. You keep the CRA at 17. And then you wait for the next 30% off to then push the CRA to 19, for example. That could be something to do. Or if 30% off is first, then you might do everything to 15 first, see if you have money left. If you do, CRA to 19, and then hold there, and then wait for the next 5, 10, 15 to push all the 15s to 17.
Okay.
If you're on a limited budget, you just go in stages. It might be that you do end up being able to do everything. Just do them in the order of risk, so that if something goes wrong, you can always pause and cut your losses, basically.
Yes.
Like if you have more than enough money to go for 22 CRA and you have 17 CRA, I would still get everything 19 first, and then everything 21 first, and then go for everything 22. Because then if something does go wrong, you end up with a shitty one and two 21s rather than a shitty one and two 17s. That latter situation is just always worse. So always go for the guaranteed stars before you go for the higher risk stars. That's my general advice. Yeah. And please, for love of God, don't ever blow up multiple items for... Do you understand what I mean? Of different types of items. Yeah, let's say that you're in 19 CRA and you're trying to go for 21, and the first one doesn't go for 21, and then you go for the second one, and the second one also doesn't go, and then you go for the third. If the first one doesn't go, then you keep working on the first one until it either catches up or gets to where you want to, and if it doesn't, then you stop there, but don't blow up multiple items and make losses on multiple items in one session. Does that make sense?
So I think so. So just if the goal is to get it to 19 for a hat, then just keep working on the 19 for the hat instead of failing 19 for the hat and then failing 19 for the top and failing 19 for bottom. Is that what you mean? Not sure.
Well, if you have 17, it's a little bit less ominous because you can always get back up to 17 pretty cheaply, right. And in worst case scenario with safeguarding, right? But let's say that you have 19 and you're going for 21. Because the general steps, if you're not going to be transfer hammering for CRA, is 17, and then you could just go one star at a time. You can go up to 18, then go up to 19, and then generally we make the jump to 21, because going from 20 to 21 is cheaper than going from 19 to 20, because it can't drop below 20. That's one thing I did want to mention, because you have the 19-star earring, right? I would always get the fodder up to 21 and then transfer hammer it down so that it at least stays at 20, because then even if you want to eventually go from 20 to 21, it can never fail down below 20. Now that you have 19, if you ever want to go from 19 to 20, the first thing that could happen is it could fail twice in a row and go down to 17, and now you basically have a safeguard at 17, but for way more money. Same thing of with the belt. If you make an 18 fodder and you transfer it down to 17, it actually comes around to about the same, or maybe even a bit more expensive than just safeguarding your belt up to 17, the first one. What would make more sense is to get the belt up to 19 maybe, which is still very cheap, and then you kind of get 18 for free, which is cool because you would never just go 17 to 18 on a belt that you don't want to risk booming, right? Because you have boom chance past safeguarding. Yes. Or you go all the way to 21 and then transfer it down. Because every time you transfer, you lose a star. So you're not going to do now 1 to 19 down to 18, because then you lose your potential and you only gain 1 star, right? So that's why the foddering usually comes after you get your CRA to 21, because CRA to 21 you can use as 21, but the fodder stuff to 21 always goes down 1 star to 20. So it always ends up being a little bit more pricey than the gains, but you do it because of the extra security and not losing the item.
Okay, I think that's a good thing for me to write down. So, and you said this would be after 21 CRA in terms of timeline.
Yeah, so if you get things to 21 that you can use as 21, you always do that first. And if you get fodder to 21 to transfer down to 20, that's usually the very next step after that. So CRA, right? Possibly pink bean belt if you have a lot of them, right? And Kana treasuring, if you get lucky with Princess Snow, could be all in about the same category. And maybe the Sweetwater stuff, if you do a lot of commercy and you get a lot of dineros, they could be kind of in one group where you have a significant amount of backups, and therefore going up to 18, going up to 19, and then going up to 21 is all roughly within the same risk assessment, provided you have around the same amount of backups. And then the very next step, and again, this gives you a lot of time to get a lot of fodder. Hopefully, pink bean belts are very easy to get, right? Because you can do normal daily and black bean weekly, which you probably want to do for the black bean marks. But at the same time, you're also still doing Helix. So hopefully, with the extra drop rate and all that, you get a decent amount of reinforced earrings as well. So earrings is usually just below the belts, and then the rings is usually just below the earrings, again, on average, because you'll use some rings for a Arcana treasure ring itself first, for your first 21 to wear as a 21, probably first a 19, right, and then later a 21. And then if you can make a second 21, that one you'll want to transfer into the Superior Golix to get down to 20. And to extend on that, because when you do that, you reset the potential. That's why typically I like leaving those items on unique and just getting, 12 to 15% unique intellect percent instead, so that I don't lose that investment of going up to legendary and potentially getting a good potential on it when I do transfer over.
Yes, I don't think I've set anything to legendary that I plan to transfer, so hopefully I'm kind of okay.
Well, I mean, the superior gear right now, right? You will eventually transfer over, right?
Superior gear transfer over to what?
No, you transfer over the fodder into the superior
I transferred, yes, but the belt was epic potential. So the pink beam belt, I mean, it wasn't that legendary potential.
Yeah, but now that the belt is legendary, if you transfer like a 21 star pink beam belt into it, the potential will go back down to the tier of the pink beam belt, right? So you lose that value there. But it is a potentiality, right? That by the time you get to 21 CRA and a 21 kind of treasure ring and a 20 star shield and maybe the Sweetwater pieces and all that, it is possible that by then you have like 5 superior belts. And if that's the case, and you already have a 27 star % legendary superior belt, then I would say Star Force on the superior belt, because if you go to the cost, right, 17, and your next goal is 20 or 21, and you have a 150 superior belt, no star catching, let's say, you could start with no safeguarding, and then if your backups go down, you could start safeguarding, or you could start safeguarding right away. That's kind of up to you. But if you do that, you can see like the average booms is like 1.3. There's some, very unlucky guy with 15 here. But like on average, it's probably going to go within 3 booms. So if you get 4 or 5 backups, now you can monetize the superior backups, and you don't have to worry about the fodder anymore. Now let's say you do boom 3 times, right? And it gets very risky. Now you could say, I'm still going to do pink bean belt and get it into 21, maybe even go for like 22 in a pink bean belt if you have a lot, and then transfer it over so that it's worth overriding the potential on the superior belt. This way, by waiting longer and by having a lot of drop rate, you give yourself more opportunities and more possible outcomes. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
But yeah, that's mainly just for the earrings and the belts, right? Because they can drop straight up from Helix, so those are like the only ones. For the ring, that's not going to be possible. But usually kind of treasure rings are very common. Or you can make more Meister rings, so you don't usually run into that problem there. The main problem becomes the pendant, because it's reliant on dominators, which are just so rare, and for crafting are pretty expensive. But daybreaks are also a possibility there. But yeah, you'll have to do Hardfihila and Saren for that at that point, so they do come in only a bit later.
Okay. Yep.
No. It's good you almost have enough money for 1 backup, so that's nice. So are there any... Oh yeah, you have a slime ring here, yeah.
No, it's a soon. It doesn't exist.
Oh, it doesn't exist. Okay. Yeah. So wishful thinking.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, I think 1.5 hours has passed. I don't want to go too much over. But I did make a supervised plan list on the bottom. But I think I'm going to need to go back to the video and kind of go over the last about 10 minutes of dense information, because I can't write that down live.
I can read over this. As you're familiar. I don't think you have to make the 100/180 set just yet. I would have a 100/80 set, and then also have a 180/0 set, and have those two sets separately, not an overlapping set yet.
What, 0 over 180?
So 0 mezzo, 180 drop. So in total you'll have like 14 pieces. So 5 mezzo pieces and 9 drop rate pieces essentially.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And then the 9 drop rate pieces are like your box opening preset.
Yes.
And 5 meso, 4 drop,
I
or
hadn't thought of
I guess you'll have
Okay,
80-80
well-
with the spirit pendant, yeah. 80-80 with spirit pendant, and then 0-1-8, yeah. Having those, so yeah, having those set up, and then 17 star everything, 30-bit event up to 15, 5 to 15 up to 17, yeah. And then permanent arcane staff, 7 build, 97 CRA. Yeah, those last 3 could be jumbled up a little bit depending on when the event is, right? But the arcane staff should be in about 3 weeks. So you want to keep, and the 19 CRA was around 7.5 bill, I think. Maybe that's a good thing to write that down. That you know roughly how much you're saving for that. Just to have an idea of, are you keeping the money because you're, not sure what to do with it, or are you keeping the money because you don't have a plan with it yet? Because you could also, whatever money you have planned, like put in storage or something, right? Rather than keep it on you, so that you know the money on you is safe to spend or something like that. I don't know, whatever structure works for you there. My mom likes to put it on a mule and then forget about it. Because she wants to have a bunch of money, yeah. But then she had so many characters with 50 bill on it that she forgot how many it was and where it all was. And then you can kind of lose track of what you would actually be capable of during an event, because you lose track of how much money you have. So I just dump everything in a storage, and then whenever an event comes around, I look into storage, and then I think about my characters, where they are at and where I want them to be. And then I look at the characters, I see how many backups they have and what the potential options are, and I see if it makes sense for me to spend on the character for that event. So let's say it's a boss mule, it can do Lotus and Damien. I think about, do I want to do more than Lotus and Damien? What is the next step? Next step would be able to do Slime. How strong do I roughly need to be to do Slime, realistically, comfortably? I see how far that is away from where I am. How many items do I need to upgrade for that? Do I have the backups? No? Okay, move on. Next one, and then kind of like single out the options there. That's a decision process for a little bit later, because you're still, mainly just focused on the main. That's why they call it that. So it's more going to be looking at, like, do I have the backups now? No. And if you don't have the backups, probably work on some potentials, or maybe buy an arcane piece or something like that, right? Like, this could be something you consider if the potentials are already kind of locked and the Star Force doesn't have an immediate thing you can work on. Maybe buying an arcane piece to, finish up the set faster is a thing to do.
So it is okay. It is kind of acceptable to buy arcane pieces as well, if there's no other realistic. Okay, I kind of thought it's something people just avoid. Absolutely. So
yeah, you avoid as much as possible, because they are pricey. But if the alternative is to just sit on your cash forever, it is a lot of damage, and they are reasonable big upgrades compared to 17 star. Another thing you can think about there as well is events like right now give out a lot of black flames, insanely valuable items. But if you don't have any arcanes or any pitches, they're essentially just eternal flames. They're not black flames, right? They're just essentially just eternal flames, and by extension, they're actually kind of just like powerful flames then. So they really only get a lot of value on items that are more semi-permanent on your account. So you could throw them on your CRA to get really good CRA flames. That's arguably the best thing you could do with them, but that's kind of sad. You don't really want to do that. So if buying an arcane a little bit early gives you something to throw black flames on, potentially get like a 150 to 160 flame on that you can carry all the way into like normal culling or something, right? Then that's a way better investment than just like throwing them on CRA and then sitting on your money while you have the money right there to make an arcane in that moment, right? So that way, even though you're still spending the 5 bill, you're getting a lot more back for it. But yeah, sometimes you're comparing event item rare value with actual meso, and it's hard to, it's kind of apples and oranges at that point. So yeah, at that point, that's a good idea then to know what is your weekly income and how long are you waiting for next update anyway, and do you have the money for that next upgrade? Then you might as well spend now, because it's not holding you back,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, broad strokes would probably be CRA up to 21 after that, and then fodder up to 21 into superior. That's typically like the next steps. Finishing off Arcane, that's like the next. So like full Arcane, full 21 CRA, full either 20 or 21 Superior. Really depends on the backups there, but I would say be okay with 20 star because, you know, you can get a guaranteed 20 or you can get a chance of 21. I'll just say that on average, the person with the guaranteed 20s is going to be stronger than the person with some boomed stuff in their in their inventory, reminding them of suboptimal choices. But that's a personal decision for everyone to make.
Got it.
Yeah, and then I guess then comes the big training set. You know, like the 200/100 drop meso and so 100/200 meso drop set basically. The full set for training, and then you have one specific set for both opening boxes and for training. So then you can yeah, and the hopes is that you hit some kind of large drop here. You get some kind of Oz rings in the meantime, right? Maybe a pitch piece here or there, but by bringing everything up somewhat evenly in the accessories. So one thing you have to make a decision on is like, do you keep doing Commercy for the Dineros? Because you don't necessarily need to rely on those pieces, but if you get unlucky on everything else and you didn't do it, then you have nothing to fall back on, and then you're just sitting on some 17s there when everything else is 21, and that's going to be a really big disparity in terms of efficiency for upgrades. So that's just a thing for you to decide. But yeah, high star for Sweetwater stuff and stuff like that will make it easier for you when you have it pitched to say, I'm going to go 22 or nothing, because it'll need to be that high for you to want to even change into it in the first place. And otherwise, if your upgrades aren't there yet, then a 19 for a pitch would already be an upgrade. And then it's a really tough sell to be like, well, I have to go for 21 or 22, but it's already an upgrade. Like, why wouldn't I use it now, right? And that puts you in a little bit of a weird position.
Yes, I'll look forward to that.
Okay. Were there any things, like other like general questions? I know Bishop-related stuff. I know you always have like your class Discord and everything, right? I'm sure they're very useful. I think your inner ability is not like exactly where you want it yet. Do we have a plan on that?
Yes. We wait for the event, which is, wait, is that in 2 days? Tomorrow? 2 days?
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll try and get the ideal attack speed one with buff duration 30 something. Not really
and
sure what to do with the other two. Sorry?
Do you know how you're going to do that?
How? No.
Okay. Would you like some help with that?
Wait. I can't just use like a chaos on that, can I? It doesn't. Because I think it's like an orange line for the buff duration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right there. Yeah. So Chaos and Black, they re-roll within the existing types of line and existing rarity. They give you a random re-roll of the numbers. The Black Flame allows you to also go back to the original roll if you don't like it. The Chaos just gives you that new random re-roll.
So it can't tear up with Chaos?
No, cannot.
No. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Okay, so how do I do it?
So how you do it, the general best idea is, one, you want to make sure that you have enough honor so the general idea is you roll with Circulator first, you get your best unique yellow line with regular Circulator, so the Miracle Circulator is the blue ones that you can buy in the cash shop, and you have and typically do it on a day of 50% off, so that right after that you can lock in that line and use your Honor EXP to get your best in slot top line, which for you would be the attack speed +1. So you need a lot of honor. So I would say ideally, I'd say like 1.5 million plus. I've been even on event, it could cost you as much as 3 million. But these events, they do tend to give a lot of honor EXP, and the Night Fragment store has a bunch of honor EXP you can use as well, right?
Yes.
So that could be something that you can always fall back on. You don't have to use all of it at once, but all of the honor, right? Because if you do hit, you might want to use it on another character, but in your case, you probably want to keep it here. But you want to have enough money for the circulators to try to roll the unique line, which that could be several billion as well. And then you want to have enough honor to lock that line and get the attack speed back on the top one. If you don't think you have both, then it's best to just wait for the next event and then just send them the next event, essentially.
Right. Okay.
And that's because the circulators, when the circulators hit the line that you want, it'll always give you the max number. So if it hits unique buff duration, it'll always give you the 38, nothing of the variance. And because the highest unique line you can get is, for most classes, very close to a legendary line, this basically allows you to get like one legendary line and one pseudo-legendary line somewhat guaranteed. And then there's just the variance left on the last line, but the last line is of much smaller importance.
Okay, so I buy the 20 mil, was it 20 million? The blue circulators from Cash Shop, and then I keep rolling until I get an orange buff skill duration, and then I lock that one, and then keep rolling until I get attack speed +1.
Yeah. I think what would be a good idea for that is for your circulators to set a budget of how much you're willing to spend at most. Because it is possible that you just roll all your money away and don't hit it. And that'll feel really bad, because then that excludes, if there's a Star Force event and everything, from making your Star Force upgrades or from getting all your drop rate gear, right? And it is an important thing, but you already have 24% buff duration with attack speed, so it's not going to be like completely game breaking for you to hit it. It's going to be good, right? Don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be that insane. And if you're more in a support role, then it's almost better to just use the 49% buff duration to have your infinity for the final damage and to make sure that everything is working. And that one attack speed, though noticeable, it's again not going to be completely game breaking. Yeah. So you have options. So it might be that even though you want to get to that, I would almost say that it might be a little bit too soon for you right now, because I think you can make way more gains in the short term by getting the drop rate stuff and getting the Star Force gains and making sure that you have the money to move into Arcane and into the weapon sooner. And then, because 50% off inner abilities are pretty regular. Not like every other week, but there's like one every other event, I would say. So at most you'll be waiting like 2.5 months or something for it. But it's only for that 14% buff duration. You already have a decent inner ability, I would say. So I would be okay with you like not going too hard on that one right now.
Okay.
And maybe skipping out on this one, because I think all these other upgrades that we talked about, I think will help your character quite a bit more than just the little bit more of buff duration.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, you can underestimate the circulators. You could easily spend like 8 to 10 bill on the circulators just to hit that 38% buff duration. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once you do, you're locked into needing to spend the honor, and then if you don't get your attack speed back, then you've essentially just made a second inner ability that's worse than the 49% buff duration that you already have. So yes. I'm always looking for, when you're going for an upgrade, what are the odds that there's like no upside, and I'm always trying to minimize that. And always trying to maximize at least making some upgrade, and if there's at least a good chance that you make no upgrade whatsoever, then I'd say it's okay to just walk away and circle back later.
Yeah, okay, I'll hoard honor points then.
Oh, someone in chat said I spent 18 bill getting unique buff duration and still trying to get attack speed back. Yeah, one character I need to roll 6 mil to get my attack speed back. Just as like a reference. It's pretty miserable. So I think you're already in a decent spot in terms of the inner ability. So just to give that context. I'll just scroll through everything, see if I missed anything. If you can still think of any questions. I didn't know if you had anything else written down besides the plan.
No, I figured just the plan was enough to talk about and get a lot of information on, which I did. Yeah, I'm happy.
Spare earrings. Yep. Yeah, once you get that drop rate set completed, then you'll be able to very specifically upgrade a different, completely different set specifically for damage, right? And that'll be That'll be easier to keep those separate. I guess your cup flame could use a little bit of love. But oh, do you still have flames and stuff from the event, or do you still have event items to use, or have you pretty much?
I think with flames, I'm quite neglectful with flames. So yeah, no, I don't have that many actually, because I kept trying to. I spent it on my CR8, so because everyone had 60-inch with 5%. That I thought I could do that, but I couldn't. So yeah, I haven't. That's where all my flames went into my CRA.
Wait, didn't you have like you had like a 60 and 4, don't you? Like I thought.
Did I? Did I succeed in one?
Or 40 and 6,
notice?
I think. Was it your?
Not the same. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't use a calculator for the flames. I know.
Yeah,
I should,
40 and
but...
6 and a 56 and 5. That's all.
Yeah.
That's both better. And this is 44. What's the hat? 44 and.
Hat. Sorry, it was.
44 and 5. Yeah, those are fine. Those are all like around 100 or above.
Okay. I guess I spent too much on that.
And did you use the last ones of the special party? Those 50 as well?
The last one? Oh, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, you still have those, yeah.
Yes.
You can pick those up until the 27th, and then I think you have another week. I don't know if that means that you could overlap it with getting the weapon. If you could, then it would be a good idea to keep those and see if you can use those on the arcane weapon. Oh yeah, you have 120 here, yeah. So I'll pick those up on like Tuesday, see if you can stretch those as long as possible, and if you can potentially do like an early run on the 3rd week, see if you can get the weapon. Because yeah, anything good flame-wise that you can get on the arcane weapon, of course, is going to be with you for a very, very long time.
Yes.
Yeah, and you already have a tier 6 that you need to replace, so... But yeah, Star Forcing past 15 is very nice. And then the main thing is getting magic attack on the potential is going to make it a huge difference over this one. This one is definitely not trash or anything, but it can get a lot better with actual magic attack on the potential.
It is restricted, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to expire as well, right? So you can't really wait forever to... When is it expiring? Until September? The 4th? Oh, that's actually gonna... Oh, you picked it up pretty early. Oh, yeah, you might actually lose that before you can get the new one then.
So I'm gonna have to go back to Absol, and that'd be kind of sad.
What are you falling back on? How strong is that thing?
I don't remember if the Absol was the free one or one I got from... it is the free one, actually.
Yeah, it's the free one as well, so you're just kind of losing 220 magic attack there. Yeah.
Oh, no big deal. That's why I said the 7 bill might be what I have to go do.
No, exactly. That's why I think it is a pretty good idea. Just so that the bosses you can get into, you can also blue dot them so they actually have value for your account. Or you don't have to be like, hey, everyone, can you just like not do anything for 4 minutes while I hit the boss? It's never a thing everyone wants to hear.
Yeah.
Or you have to like dodge everything during benediction so you don't buff them and only buff yourself,
Exactly. That's why I already feel where I feel like I don't want to do benediction. I obviously do benediction, but it's like, wow, let's just red dot me, everyone. Go ahead.
Just teleport away from everyone. Like, go away. I'm doing benediction. That's the big upside and the big downside of Bishop. Like, you can level quickly, you can get access to the higher level bosses very quickly, but then your personal damage is just gonna be way behind. So anything you can do to boost that early on is, if you get that, then you start getting boxes, you start getting rings and everything, and then you'll be set up. But you're in that like transition point between just grinding and needing to translate that into damage for bosses potential. So, but I think with these steps and everything, I think you'll make it.
Yes.
Looks good.
I will.
You will. There you go. Determination. Confidence. We did it. I mean, if anything else comes up, you know where to find me, and I'm always available.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very helpful.
All right, you're welcome. Have a good one, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Well, hopefully for other people, maybe you're playing a bishop, maybe you're playing another class, maybe you're in that transition, hard lucid, hard will, and you're trying to figure out where does my money go? What do I upgrade? Hopefully these general advices, Dawn for life. Author's note, maybe hopefully these things, these considerations, these things we looked at will give you more insight on what to look at and what to consider. I guess we didn't look at the 5th job here. Yo, Mezniak, what is this? Do I see Ethereal Forum in a boost node, in a leveled up slot before a boost node? Okay, you're losing 10% final damage on these skills here, okay? Decent Sharp Eyes. Decent... These decents... These don't go in leveled up slots, okay? These boost nodes, though. Anything that needs any kind of damage goes in a leveled up slot first before all these other ones, okay? This one not in leveled up slot. This one, this one, this one, this one. These all go out of leveled up slots. And all of these skills, these boost nodes, all go into the max leveled up slots, okay? Your base damage will go up quite a bit. Plus you have 5 more matrix points here, so you can level up a whole slot on top of it. Should use those points. These are basically free node levels. They're just sitting here. Yes. As the last thing, I guess. But benediction is good. Make sure you level this guy up, right? This guy makes it so that you get more uptime on your infinity. So that's overall damage. And then the Goddess Blessing is more stat during everything. So that also levels up, makes your benediction stronger. So don't neglect this one here either. But I'm sure there's like an order of leveling everything up in the class Discord as well. So I'm sure that helps you out. Yeah, hopefully like the balance between your income and bossing mules. Hopefully all of that makes sense. There's a few pieces I guess that can be moved, but I'm guessing you're waiting until you hit 6 scale Legion, because then you have to redo everything anyway. That makes sense. Although, let's see. Oh yeah, we also didn't look at this. Magic, this is another another small thing here. Make sure that you get your buff duration filled in your bossing setup as well, right? So I would take out of magic attack what you can here and out of intellect what you can, and try to fill up the buff duration just to make your infinities last longer, so you can get yourself more final damage on the bosses as well. That's also, and your ID is probably, I am going to guess, pretty high because you're a bishop. Yep, and you have another 40% debuff on the boss, so you can actually go for full buff duration and critical damage over the IED on the bishop. You actually don't need that as much. So I would just fill up critical damage, fill up buff duration first actually, then critical damage, then boss damage. But you can probably fill up all 3 of those. And then if you have left over, you can like throw them into IED or throw them into the middle here. But I would reprioritize this as well, just to make sure that you can get more. And this way, see, this is actually more buff duration that you would gain from your inner ability. So this is a more valuable upgrade, I think, that you can make. Throw in an arcane weapon and all of the damage there, and you're going to be in a great time. Yeah, I should have scrolled a little bit more, sorry. But we were already a little bit over time. But I should have scrolled a little bit more. And I'm assuming here you have buff duration, boss damage, IED, item drop rate, critical damage, EXP. Yeah, I think that's fine. That looks solid. Is there regular? Oh god, is there regular damage percentage here as well? Did that one get overlooked? Exclamation mark. Artifact. Artifact. Yeah, there's regular damage percentage as well. For you, that's probably more valuable than the IED here. Again, because you have so much IED. I would, for you, replace the IED here with just regular damage percent as well. Just to help you on... It'll help you on bossing and on mobbing. You can switch the boss to regular damage. I mean, I guess, but the regular damage is a little bit lower, isn't it, than the boss? Because of the application of it? Oh no, it's the same amount. Yeah. Yeah, the regular damage is always better to take than the boss damage, because the regular damage also works on non-bosses. But the IED is typically not as necessary. I think the ID is more valuable for you as a bishop if you're going into Cernium and stuff, where you get the 380 PDR bosses. So I would probably switch out the ignore defense with the damage. I think it's good to keep the boss damage and the damage here, Stark, because she really wants to get enough damage at this point to be able to blue dot like the boss fights, to get the armor boxes and everything and not hold up the party, and to be able to afford the arcane weapon as soon as possible. And then after that, if you're doing more solo, then you can always switch around. But because of the extra 40% IED debuff put us on bosses, I don't think it needs the IED here. I would switch that. Did you get that part as well, Mesniak? Yeah. Other than that, other than all of those past post things, I guess. Hopefully, all of this was helpful to everyone listening. And if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out or leave a comment on the video. And if you want to catch me live or ask me anything in person, you can always check twitch.tv/Scardor. I stream there every day. And you can see the chat over there on the left. That's the Twitch chat. If you want to be in there, you can do that. I'll also be drawing the winners for the free sessions. So, I have already drawn the winners. So I've already reached out. Those are already planned. And so if you want a session like this as well, you want a chance to win for free, make sure you stick around for around the channel. And around the 15th of every month, I put a post up where I draw 2 random people who respond to the post to get one of these sessions for free. And if you want to earn one of these sessions, all you have to do is watch the stream and be a subscriber over there. But what you can also do is just do a direct donation and buy a session from me, and then you can basically ask me whatever you want within the time frame of the session. So it could also be offline, could also be private, whatever you want to do. It's your money, so your decision at that point. All right, hopefully that helped. Thanks for checking out the video, and I'll see you on the next one or live at stream. Thanks for watching. Bye. Oh, wow.